Just want to welcome you to today's webinar. I'm going to run through everything pretty fast because it's pretty straightforward. I have some great slides set up for you. And the key thing I want you to take away from today's webinar is for you to get away from thinking about your coaching business in terms of the strategies you're going to implement, which are really just individual actions, right? And individual actions don't grow your business. Systems do. And so I'm excited to share with you what a six-figure coaching client acquisition system looks like so you can begin to think about your business differently than probably how you've been thinking about it in the past. And most of the clients that I work with come in and they think, well, what is the magic strategy that I can implement in my business that's going to help me, that's going to take me to the next step? And the reality is there is no magic strategy. And so you may not understand that fully at this moment, but my goal is for you to understand that by the end of this webinar. So just a bit of full transparency. I do have an offer at the end of this webinar where I'll share with you how you can work with me more closely to implement the strategies that I share with you in today's webinar. If you stay until the end, I also have a way for you to get a free gift. And this is a free gift that's helped quite a few of my clients. And I'll share with you, if you stay to the end, you'll hear how you can get access to that free gift. So let me just share my screen. Like I mentioned, the topic is how to implement a six-figure coaching client acquisition system in 30 days or less. And this event, it'll run about 60 to 90 minutes. Depending on how many questions you have, you'll discover a few things. One is why your existing client acquisition system isn't working, what a six-figure coaching client acquisition system actually looks like, and how to automate the system to attract clients on autopilot. So let's get into it. And let me formally introduce myself. If you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Michelle Davis, and I am the founder and CEO of Gemstone Consulting Services. And I help coaches get more clients using automation and systems, minus the complexity, stress, and all of the stupid, nonsensical strategies that don't work. Now, prior to my career in entrepreneurship, I actually had a 9 to 5 job most of my life. I worked in nonprofit services for about 20 years, and most of that time was spent in management until I got the idea that I was going to start my own business. And that's a whole nother story, which I won't even begin to get into right now. While I hopped around a lot in the beginning of my journey of being an entrepreneur, I eventually, like I mentioned, I had a website design and branding company. And that company actually is what enabled me to grow to the point of earning enough revenue to replace my 9 to 5. And so that was the shift for me, is when I finally figured out, like, oh my God, this is what I have to do to have a steady stream of clients. Because before I learned the exact system that I needed to implement in my business, I was busy running around trying to implement one dead end strategy after another. And needless to say, it was very frustrating to do that. It was very frustrating to do that because, I was never gonna win like that. I was never gonna win because I'm fumbling around with different activities, and what I needed was the system. And once I learned how to grow and operate a profitable business for myself, I was then able to replicate it, and allow others to learn from what I did, learn my system. And my focus for the last several years has been helping professionals, just like most of you probably are, even now, package up their expertise into a coaching or consulting business. But it was in that process of growing a profitable business that I learned some painful and expensive lessons. Painful lessons about marketing, painful lessons about client acquisition, painful lessons about feeling stuck and not knowing what to do. But the most powerful lesson I learned was that if I was going to get results in my marketing, I had to stop thinking that there was one strategy or action that was going to be the key to my success. This way of thinking, this process of compartmentalizing, compartmentalizing your business is where a lot of coaches get stuck and they don't get clients streaming in on a consistent basis because they're only thinking of their business as one puzzle piece. They're only thinking of what activity can I engage in. And it's really about being able to look at the entire puzzle and put the pieces together. And you'll see in a moment what I mean. So what I help my clients achieve and what I'm going to help you do in this webinar is have that big picture view. So let me ask you a question. How would your life change if you were able to seamlessly attract your ideal coaching client? How would that change your life? Would that change your life if you were able to seamlessly attract your ideal coaching client? Would that be a game changer for you? Because for most coaches, yes, it absolutely 100% would be, because it allows them to finally reach their revenue goal, which unfortunately most coaches and consultants don't, because they don't implement the strategies and don't get the support they need to do it. Now, today's webinar is about showing you exactly how to establish a client acquisition system that puts you on the path to getting leads, turning those leads into clients, and ultimately earning more revenue in your business. So before we get into what a six-figure coaching client system looks like, let's talk about what a system actually is. A business system is an established set of activities or processes designed to get a specific result. Within your business, you're going to have multiple systems if you're running an efficient and profitable business. You're going to have multiple systems in your business. Some examples of some systems you may have in your coaching business is your client acquisition and sales, which is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the client acquisition piece. You're going to have onboarding, program delivery systems, client management systems, revenue management systems. Now, where do coaches go wrong? They don't take the time to establish systems, so they end up doing a little bit of everything, hoping and praying what they're doing will work when it comes down to coaching client acquisition. If you don't have a coaching client acquisition system, typically you can fall victim to doing a lot of different activities without really knowing whether or not that activity will be effective. You don't know how many, what's your potential to get clients doing the different activities you may be engaging in. So it's really essential that you have a system. Now, how does a client acquisition system help you? It gives you a sense of what your ascension process is. When someone sees you, what happens next? And then what happens after that? And then what happens after that? It tells you where you're taking the person to. It establishes you as a resource and as a valuable expert to the person that sees you and sees your content or sees what you have to offer. And you get to demonstrate that expertise because you're allowing them to see that you could potentially solve their problem. And you build trust and rapport because you're not just a name on a piece of paper. People are actually hearing you speak. They're seeing what you're capable of doing, and they're getting a sense of what your knowledge is. And a client acquisition system allows you to qualify people before you get to the point of having a call with them. You want to know that that person is qualified and actually meets your criteria for your, in terms of who your ideal client is. And you create a path for conversions when you have a client acquisition system in place. So before I break down what a six-figure coaching client acquisition system looks like, let's do some marketing 101 and let's look at what the classic sales funnel looks like. So I know you've probably seen this image numerous times if you spend any time online, and this is a classic sales funnel. And a sales funnel is simply just your process for taking someone to the point of first learning about you to actually paying you to be their coach. And I'm going to walk you through what this is going to look like, and then we're going to lay it out on a grid and do a use case so that you can see what this looks like for a coach. So awareness, social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, podcasts, speaking events, webinars. You know, awareness is simply how do people learn about who you are. Interest, exploring value, the value you provide. Consideration, making a commitment to connect. And action, paying the invoice and becoming a client. Now, awareness, interest, consideration, action, it can be applied to whether you sell coaching, consulting, or a book, even, or a t-shirt. The problem is that a lot of coaches will tend to think that the same activities, the same way that someone's going to become aware of you when you sell a t-shirt or generate interest in you or consider making a connection with you or take action is the same way as you're, selling coaching services that you would sell for, the same way for t-shirts. And so you want to be clear that how these different levels are carried out in your funnel is going to be so different than how you're going to sell a low ticket product or a book, because ultimately your goal is to get paid for your service. You want people to hire you as a coach. And there's essentially 5 steps to implementing a six-figure coaching client acquisition system. And so let's break down what these steps look like. You need to attract people to you, because the opposite of attraction is chasing when it comes down to business. And you don't want to chase people down to work with you. You don't want to beg people to work with you. If someone's going to work with you, they're going to do it because you've taken them through these series of steps and you've established yourself as a resource and expert that they want to work with. So having this coaching client acquisition system starts with how you're going to attract people to you, which is your strategy to consistently get in front of your ideal client. Then you need to entice them in some way. You want to pique their interest, and you don't want to pique the interest of any and everyone. You want to pique the interest of the people that want and need what you have to offer. You want to pique the interest of your dream client. Then you need to have some process to have an invitation for them to engage with you. There needs to be some kind of connection. And then you need to qualify the person, because you need to know, are they a good fit? And do they want and urgently need what you have to offer? If they believe that, they're okay, then more than likely that's not someone that is going to enroll in your coaching program. And I always like to use the example of migraines. My daughter suffers from migraines. And you have to think of when you're a coach, someone has to have a migraine before they're at the point of needing and wanting your service and being ready to pay you. Someone who feels like they could just take an aspirin and lay down, and the problem goes away, they're not going to be in an urgent need for your services. And so you have to make sure that the people that you bring on a call with you are actually ready to move forward with you. And so there's a way for you to qualify people so you can do that. You'll close out with when you present your offer and you handle objections and then you collect payments. And the great thing about the system is you can automate most of it. And automation just simply means you can wake up and or check your phone throughout the day and appointments are already coming onto your calendar based on something you've set up to just work when you're doing other things, when you're at your 9 to 5, when you're sleeping, people are still searching. So you want to make sure you're set up with automation so that you can capture those leads and take them through your process, even when you're not physically available to do that. And this is a rinse and repeat system. And the best example of how I want you to think about your marketing is Times Square in New York City. Because when you're thinking about implementing a system, you have to insert value into your marketing. How many of you have been to Times Square in New York City? And this is the best example for me because I'm in New York. So New York City, I've been to Times Square tons of times. Has anyone here ever been to Times Square? If not, I'm happy to paint a picture for you in terms of what Times Square looks like. Okay. Okay, great, great. So if you've been to Times Square, use one word to describe what that experience was like. Chaotic. Great. Yes, chaotic. Chaotic, busy. It's so much happening in Times Square. And so when you're thinking about your marketing, I want you just to imagine this, right? If you're doing some of everything to get people's attention, it's almost like a Times Square example. So let's talk about Times Square for a moment. So imagine you're coming into Times Square and someone taps you on the shoulder and they say, "Hey, I want you to buy this thing," right? You would look at the person and be like, no, I don't know you. Uh, it's creepy, right? I don't want you touching me or tapping me, asking me to buy something. I don't know you. You haven't given me any reason to think that this thing that you're trying to sell me is even legitimate. Is it good? Is it going to help me? And even if you were slightly interested in what they had to offer, you'd still say no simply because you don't even know who this person is, right? But if someone offers you value, that kind of changes everything. So imagine the same story, you're coming into Times Square, and if you've ever been to Times Square, there are a gazillion street performers, right? There's the cowboy that performs in cowboy boots and underwear, no matter what time of year it is. There's, dancers, there's all kinds of performers. So let's say you come out of the train or you're walking around Times Square and you see a crowd around this person, right? And your number one, your interest is going to be piqued. Your curiosity is going to be piqued, and you're going to want to see, well, what does this person have? Like, why are people interested in this person? And you go over, and that's going to attract you, right? You go over, you watch the performance, and you're like, wow, that was a really good performance. And next thing you know, you're giving that person money, right? Now, you didn't come down to Times Square to be entertained necessarily. Maybe you were going to the theater, or maybe you were going out to dinner, maybe you were meeting some friends. But most people don't go to Times Square with the intention of making a purchase. They go with the intention of engaging in some other activity, and then they come across this street performer. And if they're really interested in the street performer, they will give them money, even though that's not why they intended to come down to Times Square in the first place. So it's the same thing with your marketing. If no one sees you, if you're not online, you're nowhere. No one's going to see you to be attracted to you, right? Imagine if the street performer never shows up, no one's going to show, no one's going to have interest in them or know what value they can offer. It's the same thing with coaching. So you have to put yourself in a position to attract people to you, and you do that through your marketing. And you also have to have a means of giving value, because just showing up is not enough. You have to have a means of giving value, and you have to take them through the process of going from just learning about you to actually seeing that you're a solution for them and that they'd want to give you money. Because the one thing you got to remember, there's a gazillion coaches online. What is going to make you different? And what makes you different is the value piece you can provide to people. And I'll share a little bit more about what that can look like in a moment. So let's jump into the use case of what this whole marketing system, six-figure coaching client acquisition system looks like for coaches, because you saw it kind of generically. Let's break that down and what that looks like for coaches. So when we talk about attract, like if you don't have a presence, if you're nowhere, no one's going to hire you. No one's going to know what you have to offer. And so you have to have a means of attracting people. So I'm going to give you just some generic things you can do, right? To get someone's attention. By no means am I saying this should be a part of your marketing plan. This is just an example. And I'm going to use a health coach as an example. So let's say you're a health coach and you help postpartum women lose 30 pounds in 90 days, right? So let's say you're a health coach, you're helping postpartum women lose 30 pounds in 90 days. And let's say you're going to come up with a plan. Attraction just means, what plan are you going to come up with to start attracting people to you so that they'd want to work with you? So you could do one live per week. You could do one reel daily on Instagram, one post daily on, yeah, one post daily on Instagram, one reel daily. And when I say a post, now you can do like a slideshow if you want, like where you have multiple slides, that would be a post. Or you could do, I know on LinkedIn and some other platforms, you could do like was it 10 slides or 5 slides even, where you're giving some sort of value. And you can do 2 podcast guest appearances a month. So this is just an example. You don't have to, I'm not saying this is the marketing plan that's going to work for your business, but this is a sample of what someone may do, what this health coach may do to attract clients to them and give themselves a presence to attract clients. Now, as you can see, I have several components to this larger system, right? Attraction is just one part. And unfortunately, what happens, a lot of coaches get stuck on the attraction piece, because once the person kind of comes across their content or comes across them online, they don't have a what's next. And what's next is you want to entice people in some way. So you want to ask them maybe to watch a free video. And so in this case of the health coach that's helping postpartum women lose 30 pounds in 90 days, maybe that free video is an overview of one small change someone can make to do that. And then another way you can entice people is ask them to join your live masterclass, where again, you're giving them one small way or one small change they can make to reach their goal. And then your goal is, once you attract someone, you want to have a call to action for them to do something, join, watch, download. Then you want to have them connect with you. So that connection can be them opting in to your opting in, and when I say opt in, going through your landing page, putting in their name, their email, phone number, and opting in to watch your pre-recorded video. They can book a free call with you. And you'd want to pre-screen, of course. You don't want to just hop on a call with people, but you can automate your pre-screening process. That connection can be a live masterclass. It can be, you also want to send reminders leading up to that appointment and event. All of those things build connection. Or maybe you're sending them within the reminders, you're sending them things so they could look forward to that call with you or that event. And then you conduct the call. And during the call, you're going to qualify them. You're going to get a sense of, is this person someone that needs what I have? Do I even want to work with this person? Because sometimes you can be on a call with someone and the attitude is just like, no, we're not a good fit. And you let them know that you don't think this is going to be a good fit, to work together. You host the event, and during the event, you're sharing with them exactly who you work with and what they're going to get from the experience of working with you. You're going to qualify them throughout the time that you're presenting or throughout the call by asking questions. And then you're going to present the offer if it's appropriate to do so. If you know you don't want to work with someone, you don't present them an offer to work with you. But if you're doing a one-on-one call and you feel like this is a good candidate to work with me, then of course you present what it is you have to offer. And then you close by handling any objections they have. You collect your payment. You have your post-event call. That way you can confirm their commitment. You get a signed coaching agreement. You share your key program dates, particularly, when you're going to start with them. How long will it be? Is there an onboarding or some kind of kickoff date? You share that with them. You collect the balance and you outline any payment plan arrangements that you're making with them, and you get paid and you deliver phenomenal results to the person. Okay, so that is an example of how the system would map out. And as you could see, it's not just attraction. It's an entire process that you would take someone through to get them to the point of closing. And the reason why selling coaching isn't as simple as selling a book or selling t-shirts is that people have to commit to whatever change you want them to make. They have to know it's a problem, number one, and they have to be committed to changing the problem, and they have to have an urgent desire to do so. So unlike selling low ticket items, where it's easy for someone to show interest in something by looking at the size and seeing if you have their favorite color in this particular t-shirt. It's quite different with coaching. Coaching requires people to actually make internal commitments, maybe face some hard facts that they don't want to face. You also have to think this is not like seeing you is not their first rodeo. They've probably done other things to try and correct this problem. So maybe they have trust issues, or maybe they don't know if what you offer has to work. So your process to take them from just learning about you to them feeling comfortable paying you, it involves a system and not just one activity. And like I mentioned before, the attraction part, the enticing, the connection, all of that can be automated. So all you have to do is show up to deliver, the masterclass, conduct the strategy call, and to close the client. And this is a rinse and repeat system. This is an example of a health coach but you can use this for any type of coaching. And what falls under the attraction and enticement connection or qualifications and closing really just depends on the system you map out. There's no magic method for you to attract everyone you want to attract. You have to have a plan and know how that particular activity is going to, what role will it play in your larger system. And, even with everything that I've laid out in terms of what the system entails, people still struggle. Coaches will still struggle to implement it, even though it's been laid out for you. And here's why. They're not sure how to implement it, even though you've seen the system. People can still be unsure really how to implement it. They still try and operate it manually with no automation, and so they end up losing people or they end up consumed with people. I've had clients that at the time they start working with me, they actually were hand delivering their freebie, their ebook, their video, and let's say someone reaches out to them, they were manually sending them, the item, and that's just not going to work. You can't grow like that. And you certainly are going to get to the point where you're going to, be your biggest obstacle to getting revenue because you're spending too much time on tasks that can be automated. The other reason why coaches will struggle to implement the system I just shared is that, or struggle to implement a profitable client acquisition system, period, is they don't have the system. They focus on that attraction part where they think they'll come across someone online, a coach online, and they'll say, well, just have a live every day, go live. And going live is only one part of the system. It's only one activity. It's not going to take people into a purchasing decision necessarily. So you have to have a system and you have to um, lay everything out and know how that system's going to work. The other problem is that I've seen is people juggle too many software tools. They get caught up in what they see online. They start buying a bunch of tools. And then when the individual tools don't work, they can't get the customer support that they need because they have all these different tools. And a lot of times it's not the right tools. And I kid you not, when I first started as an entrepreneur, I didn't know anything about online business tools. And I fell for a lot of crap starting out. I remember it was a point where I was spending $500, probably even more than that, on tools. And a lot of these tools I didn't even know how to use, but it was because I thought I needed them. And I had no sense of how to really piece those tools together. So why was I spending $500? I haven't even nailed down the basics of it generating revenue in my business. So juggling too many software tools is never a recipe for success. The other reason why people or coaches don't implement a profitable client acquisition system is they only want to implement part of the system. They'll pick and choose the pieces they'll implement, and it doesn't really work like that. It's like, putting together a desk. You can't miss pieces on the desk because then your desk doesn't have everything it needs to function. And it's the same thing with your system. And when you don't have a system, you don't know what's going to be the process to lead people to buy. Just because someone sees you on social media doesn't mean they're going to spend $5,000, $10,000 with you, depending on your price point. And they also never get the support they need. So it's like this cycle of struggling and trying to figure things out and trying to get coached by everyone on the internet. So they never really put the pieces together. And another huge reason that people don't build this profitable client acquisition system is their offer either sucks or they don't price themselves as a premium coach, or they don't price their offer as a premium offer. And so when you don't price yourself correctly, you're just setting yourself up to not earn enough revenue for all the work you're doing. And also, or finally, focusing on activities instead of implementing the overall system. So let me just recap. So here's what I've covered so far. Why you need a client acquisition system, why it's important, examples of coaching business systems that you should have in your business. If you don't have those systems in your business, you want to definitely go back and implement them or map those systems out in your business. And I also covered what a six-figure coaching client acquisition system actually looks like. And I gave you a use case using the health coach example so that you can see how coaches can effectively use the system. So I want to invite you to a free, no obligation breakthrough strategy session. And what we can do is we can hop on a call, we can talk about where you are now, where you want to go, and we can create a customized game plan to get you there. Because there's nothing worse than being on the path to confusion. So go ahead, click the link below this video, choose a time on my calendar that works for you, answer some simple questions, and let's get on a call and work together to create your customized game plan.